Hello and welcome to Polymer Clay TV. I'm Kira and today I'm going to show you how to make this fun polymer clay flower pen. I'll show you how to make a fun stem for it, and I'm going to teach you how to make this cane, which is what's on the center of the flower here. And you can see how it changes when it bakes. So let's get started. To make this flower center cane, what we need is some translucent clay, and this is actually Sculpey 3, and I'm using it because it's very, very soft and I want to be able to mix this up quickly. You could use Primo the same way, but my Primo translucent is all very hard and I want to get this done now, so I'm going to use my Sculpey 3. And I've got Primo white to wrap it with. I'm going to use Adirondack alcohol inks to color it because I want it to be very translucent. So I've got sunshine yellow, sunset orange, and watermelon. And I'm going to add glitter, and I want it to have sort of a speckled effect, so that will be from the glitter. And this is Sparkle and Sprinkle glitter. The color is called Gold Dust. So first thing you need to do is make this into a rectangle. My blend is going to be mostly yellow and orange. I'm going to go like this with my alcohol ink. And I wanted to add a little bit of the deeper red to one end. So I'm basically going to kind of swirl this around and let it dry. So just for fun, I added some of these Cosmic Shimmer gilding flakes, which you can find them in lots of places. Like, it's just a pouch or a container full of what is actually scraps of gold leaf. This one has some other colors in it, which I thought were interesting. So here's what my clay looks like with some glitter and that gold leafing stuff on it, and we're just going to keep running it through. Now we want to create a nice roll of clay from light to dark. So what I'm going to do is stretch this out. So I'm going to now turn it and roll it through the pasta machine one time, or maybe a couple times, but to get this thinned out so that when I roll it up, I don't see such a hard, if I were to roll it now, it would go very quickly in like thick lines from yellow to red, and I want it to go more evenly so that you don't really see the blend. So I'm going to stretch it. So you saw in there that in the middle I got a little bit too stretched because my pasta machine caught the clay. It's really soft. So it's all right, just improvise. You can do a little fold over and get it back together. Okay, and if your clay comes out rippled, mine did because, like I said, this clay is really soft. Just flatten it out before we start this next step, which is going to be rolling it up into basically like a bullseye or a jelly roll kind of a cane, but we're just going from light to dark. So you're just rolling it. Trying to keep the air out. So that you've got what looks like that. And now we're going to wrap this with a piece of white clay to finish off the look of the center of the flower, and then I'm going to reduce it and stretch it out. So this part is fairly easy. We just make a straight line and wrap the clay in the white. Cut off the extra, bring the edges together, squeezing it in the middle. This is how I'd recommend reducing most canes, is by squeezing and pulling. So you'll squeeze it down and then kind of pull this way on it at the same time so that you're encouraging it to get longer without messing up what's on the inside. And I'm going to reduce this fairly small because of what I want to do with it. Now that we have the cane made for the center of the flower, we can go ahead and use some cutters and some contrasting colors of clay to assemble that flower. So here I have Mediterranean Blue Brilliance ink, which is a basically metallic dark blue, which I will put on here. And I've got multi-surface Versamagic chalk ink in Sea Breeze, which is like a opaque chalky looking ink, which I will put on this one. So basically I'll have the dark blue with the light blue ink and the light blue with the dark blue ink. It'll give us a good contrast. And I have this for the calyx and the leaf and a bit of pigment powder to create a nice veined look on there. Here's a trick. Because this whole thing is designed to go over the top of a pen, I'm going to assemble and bake it on here as a prop. So you'll see that as I'm getting it ready and putting it all together, that this is actually a small circle cutter, and that's what I'm going to put it on for baking. Now let's say you want to have some fun and cover a pen with polymer clay. The first thing you need to do is test your chosen pen. So this is from Office Depot. This is a Bic round stick, and these used to be white, and they don't make them in the white anymore, at least not that I could find. And what I did is I put a little clay on the two pens that I wanted to test, the Office Depot pen and the round stick pen, and I baked them as normal. And you can see that the Office Depot pen failed the bake test. It is not straight anymore. It warped in the oven. Okay, and the round stick, it's not perfect, although it didn't warp. It's still, I can still see that it's sort of not exactly straight either. But if I were going to use polymer on a whole pen, this one would be the better bet. So instead of putting clay on this, I decided that I'd like to do it in a different way. So I'm going to discard the top for now, and I've got my glue gun heating up, and I have some of my favorite yarn for doing something like this. This is Noro Japanese yarn. The color family of this is called Kirara, and basically it's a variegated yarn, and it comes in a skein, and you can get them in lots of colorways. This one happens to be greens and purples and turquoises and kind of nature-y colors. So I've unraveled some of it, and I'm going to just wrap it around the pen. And I'm going to start here and go to the end. And I'm going to use hot glue as my anchor. As you get nearer to the opposite end of the pen, you can switch your grip. And I'm liking this because as I'm doing it, I'm realizing that the yarn is actually sticking really well, and it's going to give me something fabulous to glue my polymer clay flower onto at the top of the pen here. So just go slow, and you don't want to put down so much glue that it dries or hardens before you get your yarn over it. It's gotta have something to stick to. And you know, sometimes it's okay to not make your entire project out of polymer clay. I know as a polymer clay artist, I like to branch out into other things, and mix media, you know, can be really fun. It's easy to get a skein of yarn and find stuff like this at the craft store. So I'm just going to come back down a little bit because I know that the flower top is a bit wider than my pen, and it'll give me a little bit more of a base so that the top of my pen isn't wobbly. And then I'm going to go back up again and eventually cut this off. Probably right about here. So this is out of the oven and cool enough to touch, and you can see that I did a little more decorating to it. And I use these paints. I like these Martha Stewart glass paints. They're glitter glass paint, and I'm not sure if you can get all these colors anymore, but when they were popular, I grabbed a bunch of them. And this is the turquoise, copper, and peridot colors, and they work really well with polymer. So all I'm going to do now is just hot glue the flower onto the top of the pen. You can use any other kind of glue, like if you want to use E6000, if you want to use a 2-part epoxy, those would also work fine. I'm going to mush this around and make sure I get really good contact. And once whichever glue you choose has dried, you now have a really cool flower-topped pen. And if you choose, you could make a little polymer base to stick it in with leaves and things so that it could stand on its own, or you can put it in a cup or whatever and enjoy it. And the great thing is, if this pen runs out of ink, which, you know, if you use it a lot it will, you can either just pop the polymer clay part off and make a new pen with some more yarn, or you can try to pull this out and put a refill in there. Because the pens are cheap and the yarn is, you hardly use any, I'd probably go for the first option and just pull off the polymer part and make myself a new one. So I hope you enjoyed this idea, and I would love to see your polymer clay flower topped pens. So be sure to join us in Polymer Clay Tribe. That's our free Facebook group. And all of the tools and things are from the Create Along shop, which we're actually having a sale right now. It's 27% off everything in the shop for our customer appreciation sale with the coupon code AugustFun. So head on over and check out all our fun tools and supplies. And we'll see you next week on Polymer Clay TV.